In the name of God, the most compassionate, the most merciful, who is also the source of peace. Today's daily random talk is on international payment systems. Currently, the most dominant international payment system is the SWIFT system, which is based on the US dollar, and hence it makes the US dollar by default the reserve currency of the world. Almost government all trade in the world takes place using the US dollar, and payment is made through the SWIFT system in US dollar, which passes through the Federal Reserve in the US. Hence, the United States government has muscle to enforce any sanctions using the payment systems by removing a country which is a rogue country in their opinion out of the international payment system. Hence, that country cannot pay for any goods and services, nor can it receive any payments for its exports. So import and exports are restricted unless the country resorts to doing barter trade, and the country becomes isolated in the global trade arena. These would be countries like North Korea, uh, partially Iran, Russia, or maybe at one time even Zimbabwe under Robert Mugabe, in Iraq under Saddam Hussein, Libya under Muammar Gaddafi. However, we have to understand there are some countries who are willing to trade with them in their home currencies. However, that is a significantly small number of countries powerful enough or too big enough for the United States governments to take creative actions against them. This includes maybe a country like China. Due to these things, China, and they will definitely be buying goods at a significant discount to the official world market price of those commodities. This includes things like yuan denominated discounted oil, which it buys from Iran. However, this is on a bilateral basis and not on a multilateral basis, because Iran is outside the SWIFT system. In recent years, China has been developing the CIPS system, now christened NBID system. CIPS means China International Payment System, whereby goods and services and trade would be conducted in the Chinese yuan. The NBID system infrastructure was developed by China initially through second tier banks who would not be having US subsidiaries, The major Chinese banks would have US subsidiaries, and hence they would have to comply with US regulations, and they cannot be part of that system. However, the NBRID system is further development of the CIPS system as a parallel system to the SWIFT system, which is based on the yuan, Chinese currency. And according to my understanding, of course, China is the main country, and it encourages trade to be denominated in Chinese yuan as an alternative to the US dollar. Hence, it becomes a reserve currency also. According to my understanding, the following countries are part of the system. Okay, the normal, what is known as the axis of resistance is there because they have embargoes and they are also being cut off from the SWIFT system, or had been. It includes North Korea, Russia, since the invasion of Ukraine, and Iran, almost for almost 45, 47 years since 1979 revolution. However, now it includes major countries, oil exporting countries like Saudi Arabia has joined the system, UAE has joined the system, the NB system. As inaugural founding members of the NB system, basically Saudi Arabia, UAE, Thailand. I understand the list is growing. They have also been selling some of the oil denominated in yuan, not only to China but to other countries also, releasing the pressure and the need for the US dollar. This means countries will also eventually, in due course, need to keep the Chinese yuan as a reserve currency in the central banks. India has also been buying and selling goods in Indian rupee. These are huge economies with huge populations of their own, hence they're difficult for the sanctions regime to really tie them down. However, with countries like Thailand, Saudi Arabia, UAE, I understand even other countries like Qatar might be interested, Kuwait might be interested, basically the whole GCC countries, which would mean countries who do exports to China, because Chinese factories need raw materials from all over the world, would receive money in yuan, and they would have yuan, and the yuan can be used to purchase oil. Furthermore, Shanghai, which is the financial capital of China, the Shanghai Exchange has energy futures, which has an alternative to the Brent price of the world, denominated in the yuan, and it allows derivatives, forwards, options, swaps, and whatnot, financial instruments, which countries use for in hedging and buying and selling of oil, because every country in the world, which whether it has oil or it does not have oil, have to needs energy or needs to sell the oil. The countries which need to sell the oil can sell in the yuan, and it would be of no, the playing field would be level In that they will be able to do everything what they can do in a US dollar denominated system of trading of oil. And also those who need to purchase oil, because energy runs the world. Either you need to buy or sell, and it can both be done in yuan. Okay, right now it is in the initial stages, but it is set to increase in future, which would lead to de-dollarization of the global oil and gas related trade, which includes also not only oil and gas but also things like resins for plastics, fertilizers, and other byproducts of the hydrocarbon industry, including tar, tarmac. So, and also these countries need food, need to sell food, buy, sell grain and everything like that. If it can be done in the yuan, so it becomes a credible alternative with increasing number of countries joining the yuan based N-bridge system. I would suggest all countries should do it, should enter it, because we have to understand that over 120 billion US dollars were frozen for Iran. When the US decided to impose sanctions on it, which are now being released in stages in accordance to the memorandum of understanding for the peace agreement, which has to be done within the next 60 days or extended by mutual consent. So we have to understand that the risk is there for each and every country. Like Russia, I understand when it invaded Ukraine and it was removed from the SWIFT system, the amount of assets which were frozen denominated in US dollars were over 300 billion US dollars. So the amounts are huge. China realized, and also I believe the other countries in the Gulf, especially Saudi Arabia, UAE, that should they in any time go against US wishes, especially maybe in relation to the relationship with Israel and the Palestinian issues, they might also suffer the same fate as Iran, Russia, Zimbabwe in the past, North Korea in the past, and currently also. Therefore, it is a hedge against unilateral US sanctions, and also it means you could borrow and have your projects done, especially in the developing nations of Latin America, Africa, and some Asian countries. When China in the roads and Belts and Roads Bridges initiative, whereby China builds infrastructure for a lot of countries, you could denominate, which is denominated in the yuan, and if you're in that system, you have your yuan when you're buying and selling commodities, and you're able to pay your loans in the yuan. So for countries like Kenya, Sri Lanka, Ethiopia, Tanzania, who have the Chinese build infrastructure projects like railways, ports, and other things, bridges, roads also. They can simply, they can, if they're generating their own yuan in yuan denominated trade, they can pay off their loans using the yuan. So it is a positive for them. They do not have to the pressure on the US dollar, which sometimes creates unnecessary price spikes because of the pressure on the dollar and increase the rate of the US dollar against the local currency. So, being part of both the systems, both the SWIFT system, there is no law in the world which prohibits you currently from being part of both systems. So, it is in the interest of all countries, including Kenya, to be part of the Enbridge yuan denominated CIPS payment system also, depending on what you are selling to countries which are associated with the CIPS systems, like China itself. You can increase your trade to China, selling what do you call food and other things to China, your raw material, even in mining, natural resources. So it is a win-win situation for a lot of parties, especially in the developing world, to be part of that system. Yes, there might be some threats and whatnot from the US, but however, they cannot legally stop you from making the move. Otherwise, we wish you all of you a great weekend, and God bless all of us and bless us with prosperity and peace in the world. Amin, Amin, Amin.